Hello everyone, this is Harni, Assistant Professor of English from Bishop Ebert College. This video is on Animal Farm by George Orwell. The Russian Revolution happened in the year 1917 in two stages, the February Revolution and the October Revolution. The February Revolution is when the imperial government was overthrown, the Tsarist regime came to an end, and the administrative process was taken over by Alexander Kerensky. And later, the October Revolution came forth because not much had changed, where Lenin, along with his Bolsheviks, took complete control over the Soviet Union of Russia. The major reasons for the Russian Revolution were the wars that were going on around and the acute famine that was affecting the people of the country and the industrialization which led to a huge population boom in the urban cities. Well, Lenin was the one who initially formed the first communist state and became the first dictator of the world's first communist state. Later, it was taken over by people like Stalin and Trotsky, but Stalin became the de facto leader after he was successful in chasing away Trotsky by getting him exiled and later executed. Now, the Russian Revolution's major reasons, as I told before, was famine and war. 1917 was not the first time that the people started revolutionizing. In the year 1905, on the battleship Potemkin, the crew mutinized against their higher officials, and again in the same year, a lot of angry workers organized strikes, which was called the Bloody Sunday Massacre of 1905, and it was also called as the Great Dress Rehearsal of the Russian Revolution. So, while 1917 was the year when the Russian Revolution was completely full-fledged and came out, and people were actively a part of it, and a success was brought together where the imperial dynasty, the Tsars, were completely exiled from the country or they were chased away from the country. It started back in 1905 and ended in 1917. George Orwell is the pen name of Eric Arthur Blair. He was a novelist, essayist, journalist, and critic. His works focus on the aspects of social criticism, and his works also show his vehement opposal of totalitarianism, especially in his works Animal Farm in 1984. And he also talks about the need for democratic socialism, which is what he believed in. Totalitarianism, in the sense, he was completely against any form of government that took complete control over the people without any benefit to them, without giving them any liberty. And he talks about those issues in Animal Farm in 1984. While these two works are his famous ones, they are not the only works that he had written. He had also written works like Down and Out in Paris and London, Homage to Catalonia, Coming Up for Air, and even a food writing book named British Cookery. And when he talks about this totalitarianism in 1984, for example, he talks about how there is no freedom for people, how everything is under the control of one particular person or under one government that decides everything you do. And almost the same thing happens in Animal Farm. And all of these are a reflection of what he thinks about Stalin's rule or Stalin's philosophy, Stalin's ideal during the Russian Revolution. He was completely against Joseph Stalin's way of communism because his idea of communism largely relied upon whatever Vladimir Lenin and Karl Marx told, and Stalin's ideals were quite different from the original ideas of communism. And George Orwell expressed his aversion to these contradictory thoughts of Stalin in a lot of his works, not only novels but also in few essays, and of course in few of his work as a journalist too. Animal Farm, published in 1945, as I told before, was a huge criticism of Joseph Stalin. It is both an allegory and a satire. A satire in the sense it is more of a political satire where he completely trashes Stalinist version of communism. And on the other hand, it is an allegory because he doesn't directly take a hit on the Russian imperialist government or even the Russian communist government. He uses animals in this character as a reflection of the various activities or various people in the Russian Revolution, and he ridicules them and also gives a very stark reality of what happened during the Russian Revolution, and he uses the allegory as a tool to bring forth that particular aspect. And this manuscript of The Animal Farm was rejected multiple times because when it was written in the year 1944, um, it was a time when Britain and Russia were together in the Second World War, and they did not want to offend Stalin, and so the book was rejected multiple times. It was even almost lost in a German bombing of his home. He found it after a lot of difficulty, but still it got accepted and published in the year 1945. And in an essay written in the year 1946, Why I Write, George Orwell tells, quote, to fuse political purpose and artistic purpose into one whole, unquote. This is what he tells about the Animal Farm, where he tells in the essay that he wrote Animal Farm so that he could bring together both political scenario and also to bring together something artistic into it and putting them together and presenting it to the readers as a whole. It's not only something that focuses on the political side or the communist side of Russia, it also focuses on using allegory as a tool, which makes it even better when you read it. There are a lot of characters in the novella and in the revolution that you can see in parallel that has been shown in the video here. You have character of Mr. Jones in the novella and is compared to Tsar Nicholas II, and you have Old Major and Lenin. You have all of these characters here. So in the novella, Mr. Jones is the owner of the farm, and after the animals listen to a very invigorating speech from Old Major, a very old pig in the farm. They revolutionize, they rebel against Mr. Jones and chase him away from the farm. And as soon as Mr. Jones is exiled or chased away from the farm, Napoleon and Snowball take over control of the entire farm. While initially things go very smoothly, soon a lot of conflicts begin to occur between Napoleon and Snowball. And soon after, uh, Napoleon gains a lot of power and he starts to become a tyrant. And in one particular situation, he frames Snowball to be a traitor and chases him away from the farm. And now we have the character called Squealer, who is an ardent supporter of Napoleon and does everything Napoleon wants. Squealer's only job is to make sure that the animals believe that Napoleon is right and Snowball is the traitor, and whatever Napoleon does is for the welfare of the people. He keeps on manipulating and brainwashing the other animals without letting them think at all. And Squealer is a primary character that makes sure that Napoleon remains in power and that the animals don't have the guts to go and ask Napoleon's activities or question Napoleon's activities. Then you have the character called Boxer. He is a very hard working animal. He works dusk till dawn, dawn till dusk. He doesn't stop at all, and he completely believes in Napoleon and always promises to work harder. But ultimately, the only thing that happens to Boxer is a very tragic death, which is not even acknowledged by a lot of animals because Boxer's death is actually hidden or buried by the pigs who take control over the entire farm. Molly is a very pretty mare who leaves the farm soon after Mr. Jones is chased away. Benjamin, an intelligent donkey, doesn't use his intelligence anywhere at all, just keeps to himself. And you have the dogs who are trained by Napoleon to be his guard dogs to do whatever he wants. And then you have Moses, a raven, who leaves the farm when Mr. Jones leaves but comes back soon after. And you have the sheep who just bleat whatever is taught to them. Initially, they are taught 4 legs are good and 2 legs are bad, and they keep on bleating it whenever anyone tries to question Napoleon. That gives the idea to the animals that it is better to be under Napoleon's control rather than being under Mr. Jones's control. But soon after, when Napoleon starts changing the aspect of how the farm is run, the sheep change their tone or are taught to change their tone as 4 legs are good and 2 legs are better. So you have these contradictory aspects going on because Old Major is the one who brings forth the idea of animalism. While it has a lot of commandments in it, the major or most important commandment is where he tells all animals are equal. It starts that way, but Napoleon changes things minutely and slowly, and towards the end, there is only one commandment where it says all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others, meaning in the particular novella, in Animal Farm, The pigs and the dogs are more important than the other animals. The pigs live in luxury. They eat whatever they want. They don't work at all. They don't suffer. But it's the other animals who work for them, who suffer, who do everything, but they can't do anything about it. And that's exactly what happened during the Russian Revolution too, and that is reflected in the novella. These are the other aspects that are reflected in the novella, a comparison between the novella and the revolution. You have the windmill which is being built. While it was initially Snowball's idea, later, after Snowball is chased away from the farm, Napoleon says that this is his idea and it was stolen by Snowball. And they have this green flag with a horn and hoof, which is considered to be their flag, and pigs are executed whenever Napoleon feels like it. The pigs in the farm also form these alliances with the other humans in the neighboring farm, like Mr. Frederick and Mr. Pilkington. But despite the alliance, later a small battle happens in which the humans again try to take over the farm, and of course the animals win it. And that is also something that happened in the Russian Revolution. And we have the song of Minimus, another pig, where he writes it on Napoleon. And you have old Major Skull, which is put on a public display so that everyone could see it and worship it, or even feel proud about whatever the old major have done. And of course the concept of animalism, and all of these could be related to various concepts or various events in the Russian Revolution. For example, you have animalism being equated to the Russian communism, and the windmill being equated to industrial revolution. The pigs and other animals being executed without cause could be equated to the Great Purge, where Stalin executed anyone who talked against him. So we have all of these aspects being included in the Russian Revolution, and Orwell has explained all of this in the novella through the characters of these various animals. Even where Lenin's body was embalmed and was put on public display, that is also used in the novella, where the old Major Skull is put up on public display, where every day the animals will march in front of it and pay their respects to the skull, and they go on to do their work. So the entire novella is practically a parallel to the Russian Revolution, and through the allegorical usage, it looks like a fairy tale. It could look like a children's tale, but it is actually a deep-seated vehemence against totalitarianism. These are the various themes in the Animal Farm. The first is corruption, as the pigs, after a point of time, instead of focusing on the ideals of animalism, choose to think about themselves and become corrupt like the humans, just like the communist leaders turned against the working class people and thought about their own self. Then you have power of language, where the Russian journalists used everything in their power to make sure that whatever they did will help out Napoleon in the long run, and that was quite unacceptable. And Stalin used these journalists for his own purpose, just like Napoleon used Squealer and his prowess over language to keep him in the position of power. Revolution, of course, we see that the Russian Revolution, and you have the Animals Revolution that happens in the novella. Power and tyranny, where Stalin, in his power-hungry attitude, and he goes on to become a tyrannical ruler. Napoleon also becomes a dictator and takes complete control over the farm and becomes a very power-hungry pig. Slavery, you find all the animals slaving away while the pigs are living in luxury. Similarly, the communist leaders who promised to think about the welfare of the people forgot about it. Loyalty and betrayal. The communist leaders asked for loyalty, but they betrayed their workers. Napoleon asked for the animals' loyalty, but he betrayed the animals. The animals in Animal Farm and the people in the Russian Revolution were politically oppressed because they were not able to voice out their opinion. There was a huge class division even during the Russian Revolution, the communist leaders and the working class. Here, the pigs and the other animals. Then we have the concept of death and violence, where too many deaths and executions happen. Everyone, especially the animals, suffer, and of course the concept of totalitarianism is quite prevalent in the entire novel. Thank you for watching the video.